This week I got a question from Anton. He wants to know more about business systems. Let's have another discussion about business systems. Hey there everyone, it's David Barnett from davidcbarnett.com, the blog, YouTube channel, iTunes, and SoundCloud podcast where I talk about buying, selling, managing, financing small and medium-sized businesses, as well as sometimes life issues and personal things that relate to entrepreneurs and small business owners. This week I've been asked a question by Anton who says, just give me more, David, about business systems. So I'm going to do just that. Number one, if you have a business and you're taking money from people and you're giving them some kind of product or service, your business has systems or else you wouldn't be functioning. So when people talk about business systems, are they just talking about the systems or is it something more? And of course, the answer is it's something more. It's having the systems documented so that anyone can walk up, take a look at what's written on paper or a computer screen or watch a 10-minute video. There's many different ways of documenting something that somebody can come up, look at that documentation, and then be able to do what the system calls for. So, in a great example, it would be in my own business. Right? So in my business, people email me when they want to do a buyer insight analysis, for example. And they just email me saying, Dave, I want to buy a business. I'd like your help. And so I reply back and I say, thanks for writing to me. I'd love to be able to help you. That's what I do. Please find attached my buyer menu. And the buyer menu is simply a list of all the different things that I do for buyers. So on there's the Business Buyer Advantage course, the next step, the follow-up course to that, as well as a couple of the books that I've written that are specifically for buyers, such as franchise warnings. And then I talk about my 3 different levels of service for buyers: the buyer insight analysis, the most probable selling price analysis, and the complete service, where I help people from A to Z to buy a business. And the prices are there in a matrix, depending on the size of the business. So then the buyer then replies back to me and they say, let's say, for example, they want a buyer insight analysis. That's great. The next step in the process is to reply back to them and say, here's the information I require, right? And so each one of these things is a step in a process. And what you'll notice is that in my process, I not only document what I do, I document what is expected of the customer. So what do I expect them to send me? When do I expect them to pay me? How much do I expect them to pay me? So all of these little things are detailed in a step-by-step list. So I've got little processes documented on a spreadsheet, because they're easy for me to manage that way, of how I deliver all of my different services that I do for people, so that I can see at any given time what step each of my files is on, because there's a big stack of files here on my desk. Similarly, in your business, things are happening. You have to document it. And once you document it, if you have different people putting their hands on the file or different people doing different things, then you can start to require those people, for example, to initial when things are done or sign off when things are done. And now you've created what's called an accountability loop, where if something isn't done correctly, you can then see who's the one who didn't do it correctly so that you can address it with them in training or discipline if someone's done this many times and they should know better and they just simply decided to cut a corner or what have you. So documenting the process is the key. Once the processes are documented, then we can start to track where problems occur, and that's when we can start to improve processes to make our businesses work more efficiently. So back when I used to own a junk removal business with a partner, we drew out our workflow, what happened when, and we turned it into a paper tool called a job sheet, which functioned to keep track of our business process, but it was also used to give a quote to the client. It also acted as a receipt for the client and a record of each job, and was used for scheduling. So that tool was a process management tool on a piece of paper. It was an NCR form that could be torn in half. And if you want to see what it looks like, go over to yourjunkbiz.com. It was actually my very first online information product. It's been out for over 10 years. People still buy it to this day. But it's an interesting little snippet into some of the places where I learned this stuff. Because once you've got this system in place, then you can hold people accountable to it. Then you can like turn over bad employees because you can identify them more quickly. The people who do a good job, you can identify, hey, this person has been working here and we haven't had any problems with any of the stuff that they've worked on. So now you can actually start to recognize employees and reward them appropriately. There are all kinds of great things you can do once you have systems properly documented. And that's why big companies do it, right? Because they can't manage everything happening in every one of their locations unless they actually have systems in place where they can track to make sure things are being done properly and to see where the problems creep up. Anyway, so that's a little bit about systems. If you've got a small business and you want to implement better systems in your business, I recommend my business systematization course, which is called Build a Business That People Will Want to Buy. And you can find that over at easysmallbizsystems.com. I do that program live, and I also do it in the online format. And actually, I'm going to be doing it live in Toronto on May 29th. So if you're in and around Toronto, it would be great to see you. Tickets are available. Just go to my website, davidcbarnett.com. Click on the big sign that says May 29th, Toronto. There's also virtual attendance options if you can't make it that day or if you're not anywhere near Toronto and you don't want to travel. With that, we'll say goodbye, and I'll see you next week.